So like one of like the top careers that athletes usually try to go into when they finish playing is coaching, because they feel like, hey, this coach impacted my life, so I want to do the exact same thing and try to impact other people's lives. But most athletes don't usually get a coaching job because they don't follow the roadmap or they haven't done all like the education that's required. So when the whole transition of athletes trying to become coaches, they don't understand that, hey, first you got to go to school, right? And you're trying to get your degree in either kinesiology, sports science. Some of them get a bachelor's in like teaching. But what they don't do is they don't get the practice and the repetition, well, the repetitions of coaching. So what I would say is, if you're trying to become a coach while you're playing, learn the game, right? Learn the game, being able to understand the X's and O's, how to put together a playbook, how to scout, how to formulate a team. Because when I was playing, I was a team captain, right? So those were my opportunities to be in the office with my coach, learn about what they're trying to put forward as far as like the game plan for the team. And they gave us orders like, hey, like this is what we want to do, this is what we want to see. These are the opponents that we're up against. This is what they do. And they give us a scouting report, and then we go over it as team captains. And then we deliver that message to our teammates, right, in our position. I think that gave me the opportunity to learn how to be a coach in authority, get to see the other side of the game. I was working on my degree. I was in exercise science, and in that, I was just infatuated with the physical piece of the game. Being able to say, yeah, man, we can work out like this, train like this. But there were some guys who were majoring in teaching and coaching, and they became coaches. So they got their bachelors, and they had the experience of being a team captain, being the ones who were doing the scouting reports, learning how to watch film and break it down. So they all became coaches. Like half my teammates are coaches in high school, right? They either head coach, assistant head coach, OC, DCs, whatever the case may be. But because they had that education, they had that degree, they had that experience as a coach, they were able to transition once they finished playing into coaching. Most athletes have a hard time transitioning into coaching because they never took time to learn the behind the scenes part. Everybody looked at it, especially when you was playing and you was like playing at a high level, you was thinking like, man, coach just calling plays. Coach is just putting the best players on the field, right? But there's a philosophy you have to build. There's a skill set of knowing how to manage people, how to relate to your players, being able to motivate a team of individuals who are you trying to bring them all together. Those are the things that you learn in your degree path. So oftentimes athletes think, well, because I played at this level, I was All-American and I was All-Conference and I broke records, that automatically makes you a coach. No, it makes you an influence. People will listen to you, but do you really know how to take a team that might have been first year and they pretty much suck? Do you know how to build that team with the right staff, with the right philosophies, with the right culture? Those are coaching things that you learn along your education. Now, can some athletes transition and become a coach just off the strength of playing? Yes. But those are the ones who understand the game too. So whenever you're trying to become a coach and you specializing in, I want to be a football coach, or I want to be a coordinator, the level of education will determine the level of your success. Yes, to get into the coaching world and in college and to high school, you have to have a degree, but there are some places that you can create your own concept and build that from your level of playing, but it's still, you still have to continue to educate yourself, because the level of education you have will determine the level of success you have. And oftentimes most athletes, their level of education only goes as far as how well they played, how fast they ran, how high they jumped, and that's it. So they try to like teach that to players who probably aren't even on the same level as them. So when we get the gripes from the old professional players saying, why can't pro players get coaching jobs, It's not always just because of education, or they're not recognizing your elite level expertise. It's you don't know how to coach. And coaching isn't just, hey, do this because this is how I used to do it. It's just a philosophy, a methodology. It's not just I was doing this at this level. This is what I did, so you should try to do it just like me. Can you relate to your players? Can you build that culture? Can you work with the person who's down here, and can you work with the person who's up here in the same manner? So athletes, yes, you can go from being an athlete to a coach, but it's not just because you played at a high level, and it's not just because you did well or you played professionally. You have to know how to actually coach, which it ties into leadership, your education, and just the know-how of the profession. So as an athlete, man, we try to find out ways on how we can get into the profession, right? Yes, you're gonna need a degree, but the best and the fastest way is to figure out how can you volunteer, whether that's at your local high school, in your community, or even at your alma mater, right? Being able to go back and say, can I volunteer? Because you can volunteer and then transition that to be a assistant coach, and then build out the ladder as you go through this career. Some even take a grad assistant job. So you might have went to school, but you didn't finish, and you want to coach. Your alma mater or another program can actually bring you in and say, hey, we'll pay for your degree, and you can be a coach, right? You can start to learn the game while getting your degree as a student coach. And then once you graduate, then you can become a grad assistant, which then leads to maybe getting a full-time job as an assistant. And as you grow in this career, in this profession, you could become a coordinator, and sometimes even the head coach. These steps in this career field can be as fast as you want it to be, or as slow as it is. It's definitely political, but taking these steps, because most coaches have went from the volunteer to the head coach spot. Some went from a college grad to a head coach. Every situation is different based on your goal, but I would say if you want to get into this game as fast as possible as a former athlete, go volunteer. Find your local private high school, small high school, your local high school. Everybody's not going to wake up and go and get the big, well-known high schools. And I'm in the area. You won't get the big-time college job. Sometimes you're going to have to take those low-level jobs and them low-paying jobs and those volunteer jobs just to get your foot in the door, to start building out that network of relationships, because coaching is all about relationships, right? So if you're a volunteer and you did well, and this coach liked you, and they transition off to a new job, they can bring you on with them. So to go from an athlete to a coach, the fastest way to get your foot in the door, go volunteer. Go volunteer your services, go volunteer your expertise, and then get under somebody who can mentor you on how to actually be a coach. We always talk about coaches who are making them high salaries, right? Like, the $8 million and the $5 million. Well, realistically, the salary outlook, I'm just being real, average, that's including high school to college, high level. You're looking at about 30 to 40K a year, right? And every coach will tell you there's not much money in coaching, but if you love it, then you'll do it. So if you're a first-year coach, they're not looking at you as a former athlete who's all conference and all these things. They're looking at you as you're a first-year coach, entry-level coach. You're going to be making, stipend-wise, $2,000 in high school, stipend-wise with a salary to teach. College level, 30, 40 on 40K full-time. And that's being nice, right? I personally, myself, when I coached at my Division III, I was at $30,000. I made 30K to be a full-time defensive back coach. And at that time, I knew that was really good money because of the position and the level of school too. But most people think I want to come in, I want to make, 100K. That's not realistic in the coaching world, because the salaries are based on the school's budget, not your notoriety. And as much as we want to use our expertise and things like that to generate the income, it's not going to be that, right? So now that we know how much money is in there, let's talk about the pros and the cons of being a coach. the first pro, man, you get to impact lives. You get to work with athletes who are aspiring to be where you once were, athletes who have big dreams and big goals and big ideas, and you get to actually help them go from where they were to where they trying to go. Being able to like say, I helped this one athlete get better at XYZ. That feels good, right? And then also you get to travel, right? You get to see different cities and states and different cultures, because just like being an athlete, being a coach, you get to travel a lot too. So those pros of being able to travel and meet new people and build your network and grow your career and plant roots in different areas and impact people all across the world from this game that changed your life, that's a tremendous pro, right? And I won't go too deep into all the pros because it's a lot depending on what your vision and your mission and your passions are. Now, on the cons is long hours, right? Sometimes you up at the crack of dawn and you're not going back home till midnight, or wee hours in the morning, right? Now, some coaches do have philosophy where they say, hey, don't take your work home, be home by 4 o'clock, whatever the case may be. But for the most part, those people who are like into the profession, where they're like watching film the same way they watched it when they once were playing, man, you can find yourself 12 to 16 hour days just because you just love the game so much and you want to be the best. So it's long hours. Sometimes you're away from your family. And other times you might have a job in one city, one state, and get hired at one that's on the complete other side. Every year your team may change, right? A big con is you're working for a certain head coach, and then that head coach gets fired. Your job is now possibly over too. So you're always finding new locations to plant your roots, especially if you're like early on into your career as like an assistant coach. You're going to be always looking for a new job, right? Because you want to continue to elevate and grow your career. So yeah, you're going to always be moving around. So the stability of being a coach at the collegiate and the professional level is up and down. Now, maybe at the high school level, you find a good high school, you stay there for 10, 12 years, cool. But for likelihood, for those who are very ambitious, and if you're a competitive athlete and you transition into coaching, you're very ambitious. So you're going to want to find a new job, find a new location, find a new team, find a new group to impact. And it's going to keep changing over and over. And that's one of the cons if you're trying to build a family, where the stability of coaching is not always there. And the income is not always there. So the income is low sometimes, depending on whenever you begin. So the cons of coaching, I don't think they outweigh the pros. So if you can deal with the nuances on the early on of low pay and crazy hours in the beginning, go for it, right? Getting into coaching, like I mentioned earlier, the barrier entry is pretty low. Now, to try to go get a job at a Power 5 or a perennial high school, it does take some leverage and things like that. But coaching is a widely requested position. There's always openings, whether it's in Montana or South Texas, right? There's always jobs. You just have to know like what you want to do, where you want to go, what's your passion, what's your mission. And then are you willing to go to these areas that isn't prominent, that isn't like well known, right? Because there's always a position for a coach. You gotta just be okay with where they are at times, right? Because you might find yourself in the middle of nowhere, right? But that can propel your career to a whole different level. So the barrier entry to become a coach is very, I'm not saying low as like a diss, but it is low, right? You can go get your coaching job anywhere. You just have to have the proper academic requirements and the proper expertise and a resume, and you can really get a job anywhere in the United States. So for all my athletes, man, if you're trying to go from being an athlete to a coach, the first thing you must do is get your education in order. While you're in school playing ball, have that focus that if I know I want to be a coach, start lining up your degree plan to graduate in that field to become a coach, right? If you happen to go pro and you leave school early, have a plan on coming back and getting that degree, because to be a coach, you have to have a level of education and degree, and it starts with a bachelor's. So if you know you want to be a coach, get your degree. Get your degree in education, and then start figuring out what your philosophies are, right? Where do you want to go? Do you want to start at the high school level, or do you want to jump right back into college, right? Or try to go pro? Figuring out where you want to go from the time your playing career ends will help you transition from being an athlete to a coach. I'm Reggie Calhoun Jr. This has been From Athlete to